This is 4.3b, adding and subtracting rational expressions. So you have your essential question, how do you simplify complex fractions? So the new thing we're adding in is called complex fractions. When simplifying complex fractions, the first step we always need to do is find the least common denominator for all of the fractions. Okay, and we're going to multiply every single piece by that least common denominator. So on this one, we look at our denominators, x, 4x, and 8. What is the least common denominator between all four of those? And by the way, it's not smaller than any of them. It has to be the same size or bigger. Okay, so we look at the numbers first. That's what I like to do, piece at a time. So 4 and 8. Well, 8 will work, right? I can turn a 4 into an 8. I can turn a 1 into an 8. And an 8 is already an 8. And then now we look at the letters. So it's just an x. That one already has it. That one already has it. That one I just multiply by x. So that is my least common denominator. Now, the difference here is, yes, you can actually create your least common denominator. That's a way to do it. So we could make the least common denominator. Then it's combine these guys, flip, KFC, keep, flip, change, because you're dividing. Then you combine, simplify, and all that. Okay, that works. That adds about 4 extra steps. If you do it this way, where if you just multiply every fraction by that least common denominator over 1, you should simplify everything right away. So since we're multiplying, we can simplify. So this first one, the x's will simplify. Notice nothing but 1 is left on the bottom, so 8 times 3 is 24. Over, big fraction line. This one, the x's simplify and the 4's simplify with the 8. And I'm left with a 2x on top. Nothing left on the bottom. Plus, the 8's simplify here. Notice nothing left on the bottom. That's the whole goal if you haven't noticed. And then all I have to do is combine my like terms. So 2x plus 1x is 3x. Then I can simplify now again. 3 and 24 simplify to 8 on top, x on bottom, done. Okay, so let's do it again. A little more complicated, not much. Remember, we're looking at just the fractions. You need to pick out my LCD between those fractions. So look at the numbers first. Well, 8. 8, 8, and 1, so everything can turn into an 8. Now we look at the letters, x, x, and x. So they all have x already, so that's going to be my least common denominator, is actually 8x. So now remember, I multiply everything by 8x. This one I'm just going to leave as 8x because I don't need a fraction here. This one I'm going to write over 1 because it makes it a fraction, so I can help myself realize it. Remember, if you have just a plain thing like this, to make it a fraction, you put it over 1, but I only have to make it a fraction when I'm multiplying by a fraction. Okay, so this first one, the x's simplify, because I have 1 on top, 1 on bottom, so I'm left with just 8. This one, nothing simplifies, so 8x squared. X times 8x is 8x squared. Nothing simplifies because there's nothing on the bottom. Don't mess that up. Then it's 8x and 8x completely simplify, so I'm left with x squared. Then, last one, 8x and 8x completely simplify, so I'm left with just plus 1. Okay, notice some things. What if I reordered this and took out a GCF? X squared plus 1. Oh, look at that. I can factor, which makes these match up. Now, since they're completely matched, they simplify. And my answer is just 8. Done. Okay. Example 3. All right, let's look at our denominators only. Bottoms of the fractions. Okay, this one's a little harder to get my LCD. So it's a number that 2, 4, and 6 can all go into. Okay, well, 2 and 4 can go to 8, but 6 doesn't, so that doesn't work. So we got to go bigger. 10 doesn't work. 12, 6, 2, and 4, yep, all can go into 12. So that's what I'm going to multiply by, 12 over 1. Okay. So, we'll erase this highlighting. The 6 and the 12 simplify to 2. The 2 and the 12 just simplify to just 6. And the 4 and the 12 simplify to just 3. And notice all my denominators are gone. So I get 10x on the top of the big fraction line. I get 6x plus 9x on the bottom. So I get 10x over 15x. Oh, got some things to simplify. The x's, one on top, one on bottom. The 10s, I have a 2 and a 3. Remember, the reason we can simplify these is because there's no glue, no pluses and minuses. Don't forget about that. You don't want to just throw all your knowledge out the window here. So that one's just 2/3. Okay. Next one, a little more complicated now. The LCD is actually easier here because, look, if I look at just my denominators of all my fractions, the LCD is 3. It's easy because it's the same on both of my denominators. So now I need to multiply everything by 3 over 1, or just 3 for the ones that aren't fractions. Okay. So on this one, the 3's will simplify, and on this one, the 3's will simplify. So I'm left with just x squared minus 9 over x plus 3. Now we're getting into things like our actual chapter, right? I gotta factor this. Remember, we can't cross things out that have glue, the pluses and minuses. We have to factor them. Now we have something that's exactly the same. So that's why the plus 3's simplify, and I'm left with x minus 3. Done. Okay. Example 5. More of the same. So notice, this one's a little easy to get my LCD because the only denominator I have is 5. So I'm going to multiply the fractions by 5 over 1, the numbers by just 5. Okay. So 5 over 1, 5 over 1, 5, 5. And let's simplify this. So I get 5 simplify here and here. Nothing simplifies there because they're not fractions. So I'm left with just x squared minus 25 on the top, x minus 5 on the bottom. Notice it's almost exactly the same, except now the x minus 5 will simplify, and I'm left with x plus 5 as my answer. Okay. Example 6. A little more complicated. It's not just here's your LCD, so we gotta actually look. So LCD, 4 and 16, they both go into 16, so it's not too much more difficult. So multiply everything by 16. The fractions are 16 over 1, just to make my life easier. So this one only simplifies to 4, that one completely simplifies, so I get 16x minus 4 over 16x squared minus 1. The top is a GCF. Do not forget about GCFs. The bottom is a difference of squares. So this is 4x, and that's 1. So I get 4x plus 1, 4x minus 1. Okay, the 4x minus 1 simplify. And here is a very common mistake. The 4's do not simplify. The 4x plus 1 is stuck together because the plus is like glue. I can either simplify all of it or none of it, so I'm done. The 4's do not simplify. It's stuck with glue. Okay? So that's really the main idea here, the new one. Then a few of the problems are review. So I'll do a couple of them just to remind us how to do some things. So what about division? Division, you got to remember KFC, keep, flip, change. So keep the first, flip the second fraction, change to multiply. Now we can factor everything. So that first one's difference of squares, x plus 2, x minus 2. This one, okay, it's a little harder because it's a coefficient, so 2x and x. 3 and 1, it's negative 3, so 1 is positive, 1 is negative. I think it's the 2 and the 1 that need to multiply. So 2x and x. I want 1 here, the 3 here. The bigger one will be negative, and then we check. Negative 3x plus 2x is indeed negative 1x, so that works. Times GCF. Don't forget about GCFs. Over x minus 2. Okay? So, one thing simplifies. That's it. All that factoring for just one thing to simplify. So we end up with 3 times x plus 2 times 2x minus 1 on the top. And on the bottom, I have 2x minus 3, x plus 1. And that's it. Done. Example 8. We have the harder version of subtraction. So first, before I do anything, I'm going to change this to addition and change that to a negative 5. And then I'm going to factor these guys. So just below, it's a x minus 3, x plus 1. This one is a x plus 4, x minus 3. Notice they have a 3, x minus 3 in common. I need to make them match. So that means this one I need to add an x plus 1. On this one, I'm going to have to add an x plus 4, because those they do not have. Right, those are the ones each one is missing. Okay, so when I simplify this, remember we got to distribute on the top, because we can't, the top we distribute because we got to combine like terms. We got to know what our like terms are. So 3x plus 12 all over x plus 4, x minus 3, x plus 1. Plus, because I moved the negative over, distribute my negative 5, negative 5x minus 5 over x plus 4, x minus 3, x plus 1. We have common denominators now. That means we can combine the tops. So 3x minus 5x is, well, negative 2x. And I have 12 minus 5, which is positive 7. And then x plus 4, x minus 3, x plus 1. Always check, can I factor anything? Nope. Nothing matches, so nothing simplifies. And there we have it. That's it. So just a little quick review of the more difficult things, a division problem and a subtraction problem, which have an addition problem and a multiplication problem built in, basically. So make sure you remember how to do those. You have your 3-sentence summary. Make sure you write it.